sacrifices that were made by those who gave their lives. But I don't know how many people in this classroom are veterans, but I would like to thank you all for your service and the fact that we're able to sit here free and worship the way we want.
Why don't we have the veterans hold up their hands so we'll
Veterans?
know who all are veterans?
I saw something very appropriate the other day, and you probably have seen this. It's pretty simple. It was on a church marquee over in West Wichita, and it said, "The land of the free, because of the brave." I thought that was pretty touching. We live in the land of the free because of the brave. People we just applauded for. Thank you for your dedication, your service. I'm a veteran of one semester of ROTC. Does that count?
One semester.
Then I moved on.
You had to do two.
Didn't make it. I just got halfway there. I had a water skiing accident in the middle of that semester. Just about ripped my arm off. Had to have major surgery. I was in a body cast from my waist over my shoulders for several weeks. Missed a lot of classes and dropped a couple of them. Missed drill every week in ROTC. And I would go to the building, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't march, couldn't pick up my rifle. I had this arm pinned to my chest. Couldn't move it. At the end of the semester, I discovered I had, 100 and something demerits. Because I hadn't cleaned my rifle all semester. And I think they tried to fire it and it backfired. So I got in trouble. And I had to go to the doctor. I had brought a doctor's excuse, but I had to go get another one and bring it back to get all my demerits. It didn't dawn on them that I couldn't lift that rifle. So.
Well, you wanted to be a veteran.
I tried.
Yeah, that should count for something.
I went to the military ball that semester. Doesn't that count? Golly.
We do have our priorities.
Yeah. I guess so. I found that out. I said, "Oh, so this is the way it works."
Have you water skied since?
Yes, I have. Injured myself again, water skiing.
Oh, you better stay off.
I haven't been on them for quite a while.
Here's the pen. It doesn't work very good.
Jack.
Well, we are in 2 Corinthians, and I want us to look at a couple of things. We had a tremendous trip on Tuesday. Eileen's morning circle, the UMW circle that Eileen is a member of, went to the temple, the Jewish temple, Tuesday morning. We had about 22 people there. The rabbi was very friendly, very open, answered every question we had, and then some. Told us a good bit about Jewish history. I don't know how you feel about Judaism and the Jews, but folks, they are our heritage.
Oh, Christ was
They are our heritage. Our Lord was a staunch Jew. He knew the Hebrew Scriptures like the back of his hand. But then I guess he was there when they were all written down through those centuries. He helped inspire those folks who wrote them.
It's
So,
how ironic that the Jews put him to death.
yes, it is.
Did they what?
They put him
Put
to
him
death.
to death.
The Jews put him.
It's ironic, I think, that the Jews who had for 800 years been breathlessly waiting for the Messiah to come missed him when he came. And they're still waiting. Yeah, they still
missed the
waiting.
boat. Well, those
So-
tours were interesting. Did you know those tours?
Oh, yeah.
Big like that? I had no idea.
And when we're probably going to go on a Friday night, and we'll probably have to go more than once, knowing the way that works around here. since our bus isn't big enough to haul everybody, we're going to go on a Friday night to a worship service sometime.
And then out to eat.
And then out, and then out to eat.
I just want to be sure.
We went to Piccadilly after for lunch.
I love it.
Isn't that a wonderful place?
Yes.
So yeah, we'll go out to eat. When you go to their worship service, you will see and understand their reverence for the law, because they have these huge scrolls of the Torah. You know what the Torah is? First 5 books of the Bible, of the Hebrew Scriptures. We call it the Old Testament. The 5 books of Moses, or the 5 books of the law, whichever you want to call them. But in Jewish tradition, that is Torah. Torah to them is equal to our Gospels. The most revered part of the New Testament for Christians are the 4 Gospels, the stories of Jesus' life and ministry. The most revered part of their scriptures are the first 5 books, the Torah. So they have these huge scrolls. There are 5 of them. They keep them in what they called the Ark. It's a large cabinet built on the wall that has these huge doors that open. And when they open the doors, there are the 5 scrolls. They're not 5 scrolls with 1 book in each scroll. They are 5 scrolls with all 5 of the books of the Torah in them. And so they have these elaborate coverings for them. They're beautifully done. The coverings are done by hand, and they're beautiful. They open the ark, and someone goes to the ark and takes the scroll and brings it to the rabbi, and he takes the cover off of it and opens the scroll to the desired place. I was going to bring my Hebrew Bible this morning. I forgot it. Hebrew does not have any vowels. There are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. How many do we have? Let's see. How many do we have? 26. We have 4 vowels in our alphabet, plus one that's considered a vowel. I guess Y is considered a vowel. They have no vowels. And they have no punctuation marks in the scrolls. So you start reading, and some of our folks were surprised to discover that they read backwards. He had a book, not in the ark, but he had a book that he showed us, and he showed us how each verse is written in Hebrew. And then beside that is what's called the transliteration. You know what transliteration is? They take the Hebrew word and show you how to pronounce it in English. And so it's written, it's not translated, it's transliterated. Each syllable, you're shown how to pronounce each syllable of that word in English. So that helps you to read Hebrew. Then below that is an explanation of what that verse means. And he showed us one verse, for instance, in that book that had 5 pages of explanations of what that verse means. Remember, they've been studying these scriptures for at least 3,000 years. And they have all kinds of rabbinical explanations for the scriptures, and comments on the scripture, what it means, and illustrations, stories. I'm going to read you some of them in a moment. Stories of what that verse means. It is fascinating to study. At one point I could read Hebrew and I could translate it, but boy, it didn't take long to lose it. You know what your mother told you? Son,
lose it.
daughter, if you don't use it, you will lose it. And that is true, certainly of languages.
It's a perishable
So,
seed.
it's a beautiful language. Their services are in Hebrew for the most part. So you won't understand
On
most of what they're
Saturdays,
saying.
maybe? On Saturdays? Or-
Their main service is on Friday night.
Oh.
Their Friday night service would be equivalent to our Sunday morning service in Christianity. It's the most attended, although synagogue and temple are probably more poorly attended than a Protestant church. And we don't do very well. We at Woodlawn have something like 1,300 or 1,400 members, people who have committed to the church, who've taken membership vows, committed to support and serve through the church. 1,400. Our average attendance is around 500, maybe a little less right now since we've moved into Fellowship Hall. That's good. That's 40% or thereabouts. We think it's good in the Methodist Church if we have a 30% attendance, average attendance of our membership. Isn't that ridiculous? Probably Judaism has worse than that.
Why?
I don't know why.
Did they ask that question?
I don't know that anybody asked that question. Next time we go, we could ask.
Do they have more
Why
than one service?
why are we satisfied with 30%?
I
We
don't-
shouldn't be.
We shouldn't be.
Um,
Start paying them to come, they'll be here.
Well, do they have more than the Friday night service? Do they have
They
like
have,
a Saturday
that's
like
their
church
best
to
attended
do, or-
service. They have a service on Saturday morning, which would be equivalent to our Sunday night service,
Okay.
because their Sabbath begins at sundown on Friday, and or Shabbat is pronounced in Hebrew. I don't know if some of you that were there Tuesday caught that. He talked a lot about Shabbat. That's the Sabbath. That's the way it's pronounced in Hebrew. So we're thinking of going on a Friday night, and generally on Friday night services they have more like refreshments, not a meal, but more like refreshments in the fellowship hall. Appetizers sort of thing, and always wine. Well, here we go. Can we go several times? It's, in case you drink wine, it's a very sweet wine. So you'll know a little bit about it.
Vic, are they a connection? You were talking about Methodist being connectional. Are they connectional in any way?
I don't know that they are to the extent that we talk about. We are, you know. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you much. I'll write my name later. Has everybody else signed it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we need to put on there Vic's Sunday school class?
probably. Wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
Or put a note in it.
Okay.
We can put I'm going to send her some pictures
Oh, okay.
of the staff and of our class and some other folks, other things around the church. So she'll have a connection with what's going on. She hasn't been here does anybody remember when she left for Tampa? Last fall sometime.
Every time, we told her not to go because every time she went, something happened, don't go. And she wouldn't believe us. And what's the first thing that
Well,
happens? She has a car wreck.
You know, every year in November, December, a house on the beach in Tampa, Florida sounds pretty good to me too.
Sounds good.
Well, yeah.
And her house is right on the beach.
Especially this winter.
Yeah, I'd like to get out of here too.
Well, she was here in December.
Yeah, she was. She went before Christmas. So it's been 6 months
It
since
was
she's
after
been here.
Christmas that she went, because
Was it?
I thought she was here for Christmas.
Yeah, the kids came,
maybe-
that's why she stayed.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's right. I think it was the week after Christmas that
Yeah,
she went.
and I think her grandson
I think so.
drove her, or was
Yeah.
going to, or.
No, she was driving herself. She had
Oh,
that
well, she
wreck.
had
Yeah,
that
she
wreck.
had that
But her
wreck.
son went down
Okay,
Oklahoma and got her.
Did she get hurt in the wreck? I didn't know.
No,
about
she
that.
wasn't hurt, but she was stranded for several days because it demolished her car in East Oklahoma. So, yeah, you were right about that, Sue. Every time she goes, something, the last 3 years anyway, something bad's happened. The Jews have been studying the law for centuries. And over the centuries, there have been certain rabbis in their tradition who have stood out as great teachers of the law, who have extra sensory insights, maybe, into the law, who can illustrate the law better than others, or who offer new insights into the law. This is true in Christianity, by the way. We have some great theologians in the history of Christianity. Can you think of a few?
I was just thinking of Rick Warren off the top of my head.
He's not a theologian, he's a pastor.
I know, but
Billy
But he
Graham?
stands out in our modern age now.
Yeah.
I don't know
Billy
how long
Graham?
when he passes, I don't know how long his name will be remembered. And
Billy
how long
Graham
his works will
would
last.
be-
Billy Graham
Consider
possibly.
Bonhoeffer.
Bonhoeffer, Dietrich Bonhoeffer Bonhoeffer qualifies as a theologian too.
what's it?
Luther, Martin Luther,
Yes.
Augustine,
wanted to go
St. Thomas
that
of
far
Aquinas. Huh?
You wanted to go
Yeah,
that far
yeah.
back.
2,000 years in Christianity. Certain names stand out.
Yeah.
And we remember what they said, what they wrote, how they explained Christianity. That's true in Judaism. Certain rabbis down through the centuries are well known. They have several books. This happens to be just one copy. It's called Every Man's Talmud. 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 The Talmud is a collection of teachings on the Hebrew Scriptures. And those teachings have been gathered over the centuries by all of these well-known rabbis and a lot of rabbis that are not well-known. But they have collected those stories and those insights, and they keep them in a book. There are two books that the Jews value. The Talmud is one, and the Midrash is the other. The Midrash is a collection of stories from Judaism. Fascinating to read. The Talmud also is a collection of stories and illustrations of the Scriptures. I'm going to read you some from this in a moment. We are studying the second book of Corinthians, the second letter, or the collection of letters called 2 Corinthians. We looked at the last 3 chapters last week, last 4 chapters, 10, 11, 12, and 13. 10, 11, and 12, and 13 comprise what has been known over the years as the harsh letter or the stern letter. Paul was angry at the Corinthians when he wrote it. He had been there to visit them to try to correct some of the problems that was going on in the church in Corinth. It didn't work. The problems just got worse. The complaints about Paul got worse. Paul left in a huff, wrote him a nasty letter. Most of that letter, we think, is chapters 10, 11, and 12 of 2 Corinthians. We read some of that last week. If you read those 4 chapters, and I would encourage you to skip the first 9, go over and read those 4 chapters, you'll understand what we mean when we say Paul wrote a harsh letter to the Corinthians. But in that third letter, probably, that letter, he said, I'm going to come to see you again. That might have been something of a threat, but it was also a promise. I'm going to come see you again. But then he changed his mind and decided it would be best if he didn't go to see them again, because every time he went, it seemed to cause them a great pain. So he backed out of going. They complained about that. You can't trust Paul to keep his word. He says he's going to come, and then he says he's not coming. He says yes, yes, and no, no. you can't trust him. That became one of the great complaints. Okay, now we're going to go back to chapter 1 in 2 Corinthians. With that background, and I would encourage you to read those last 4 chapters in your leisure reading in the next week or two. It'll help you understand the first 9 chapters. The first 9 chapters are a nice conciliatory letter that Paul wrote to the Corinthians. After he wrote the harsh letter, things seem to have gotten a little better, and things settled down and smoothed out in Corinth. And so then he writes a commending letter, commending the Corinthians. And that's the first 9 chapters. To really understand the first 9 chapters, you need to read the last 4 first. So go ahead and do that. But Paul talks about in that first chapter, he talks about the sufferings that they've been in Asia. Let me go back to let's see what verse that starts with. Here we go. Verse 8, chapter 1. We do not want you to be uninformed about the hardships we suffered in the province of Asia. The lesson Paul teaches in that section is that we had all of these sufferings, and we listed those, and he lists those, some of them, in chapter 11, toward the end of the book. And you'll see a listing of all the sufferings that he's talking about. But he said what that caused us to do is stop relying on ourselves and start relying solely upon God. That's the lesson we need to learn from 2 Corinthians. This is not a suffering, but it's a story to illustrate it. I'm doing a wedding June the 7th. That's 2 weeks from yesterday in Tulsa. Becky Lewson's wedding in Tulsa. Becky apparently called Oklahoma to let them know she's going to get married in the park, a public park, a beautiful park in Tulsa. They tell her she has to have then an Oklahoma marriage license. I said, Becky, go downtown and get a Kansas marriage license. We will file it in Kansas. It'll be on register in Kansas. We'll slip into Tulsa and do the wedding in the park, and Oklahoma won't even know we were there. She won't do that.
You're so
Got to have an Oklahoma license if you're going to get married in Oklahoma. I don't understand that. I didn't know that was the law. In order to get an Oklahoma license, she has to have a copy of all my credentials as a pastor and a copy of my driver's license. Like I'm going to drive this marriage.
They're worried about you.
I think that's so. You know.
You have a reputation.
So now that means I've got to go find my credentials. I used to have my elder's certificate. I found my deacon's certificate in my file cabinet. But my elder's certificate I couldn't find. I had it in a frame and had it on my office wall at Epworth all those years. When I retired and moved from Epworth, I stuck it in a box. How do I know what box it's in? It's still in that box somewhere.
It's wherever President Obama's birth certificate is.
Yeah. Boy, I hope not. So,
Wouldn't they just
because they found this really beautiful park in Tulsa, and they decided that would be a great place for a wedding, and it is. But anyway, now you see why I told her to get a marriage license here.
Slip in and slip out.
Yeah,
Where's
she
he
won't do
from?
that.
Is he
So-
from local?
So, huh?
Her future husband, is he from local?
He's from Heston.
Heston.
All of our ladies down here seem to be marrying guys from Heston. That's where Don Layton's from.
Yes.
Well, I hope I'm never a widow. If I am, I'm going to move to Heston.
Oh dear.
Anyway, I used to belong to the golf course in Heston, so I have connections. Anyway, we looked for 3 days for my credentials and couldn't find them. I called the bishop's office. He was going to send me a special letter. They looked, they said, before '86, all of our files are in the archives. Well, that made me feel old. I'm in the archives, and they're in the salt mine in Hutchinson. But they called back a couple of days later and said, well, we looked in the archives and we don't find any record of you. I knew the bishop didn't know who I was. So
Vic,
that's what we went through.
On the marriage certificate, where are you gonna put the place of the wedding?
Well, that's neither here nor there. You don't need to know that.
Well, my daughter got married.
It's like filling out that bus log. Sometimes
You cheat.
you just get creative.
I'm
You get
so
creative.
sorry.
Vic, what's the penalty if
that's
you get
why the-
caught?
I don't know.
You might want to find out first.
Yeah,
Hey, now my son,
I might have to live in a teepee.
our son is from Colorado, and he was a youth director, and he's married a lot of his youth. He is not a pastor.
I know anybody can do. Yeah, you can get a marriage.
say-
You can get a credential online.
Darren's best friend, Kelby, well, Dr. Marks' son, they got married at Botanica, and Darren performed the ceremony.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a pastor, and he said that's legal in Kansas.
You're supposed to have credentials on file with the state of Kansas, and I do, have had for 35 years, in order to do a wedding in the state of Kansas. And most states just recognize that. You just go in and, whatever. You used to have to put on the certificate, the license, where your credentials were, what state they were in, and that's all you had to worry about. I've done weddings in other states, no problem.
Yeah, he has too.
Yeah, and they're just as legal as they are if I
Yeah.
did them here. Anyway, we looked and we looked and we looked. Called the bishop, made other arrangements. That's what we do, isn't it? When we have a problem, that's what we do. I was gone we do everything in our power to solve our problem, don't we?
Yes.
I was gone on Friday. I came home, and Eileen said, come here, I want to show you something. She took me downstairs, and there on my desk lay my certificate. She had found it Friday while I was gone. She said, you know what I did first?
Pray.
This is the lesson that Paul is talking about in 2 Corinthians chapter 1. You know what she did first? She said, I stopped and prayed. And she said, God, I really need to find those credentials. Would you lead me to them?
Yeah.
And she found them in a box.
Milt has taught me that when we lose something, he says this prayer, God, you know where this item is. Please show me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times it's worked.
Yeah. That's probably a Baptist prayer. Way to go. It works.
It's a believer's prayer.
That's right. But see, that's just a simple illustration of what we do. When we have a problem, we try to solve it. And what we really ought to do, as the choir said this morning, be still my soul. Be still for a minute and talk to God about it. One other little illustration, quickly. We went to Mississippi in 2011, took Tom and Marlene Whitaker with us. Most of you know Tom and Marlene. Tom and I went golfing with my cousin on this golf course in Mississippi. We got to 18th hole, and Tom realized he'd lost his cell phone. He thought he had it on the front nine, so we thought he must have lost it on the back nine. So we retraced our steps. We were in a golf cart, so we retraced our tracks to all the places we went on every hole and looked for that cell phone. Did not find it.
You tried calling?
Tom said, oh yeah, we called it. It was lost. Tom said, well, just forget it. I'll cancel the number, get another one when I get back to Kansas. So we left the golf course and went home. And that night, when we went to bed, I was stewing over that phone. And I said to God, help us find that phone tomorrow. We need to find that phone. And so the next morning we were going somewhere else. And we detoured and went by the golf course. It was about 25 miles from my cousin's house. Went by the golf course and decided we would go look for it. We had called the golf course, asked if they'd had a phone turned in. No, they hadn't seen one. We said, would you tell your workers when they're out on the course to kind of keep an eye open for it? Okay, we'll do that. The next morning we went over there. Tom said, let's start on hole number 1. And we'll try to retrace our steps starting on hole number 1. But something said to me, start on hole number 10 again. Start on hole number 10. And so I said, before we go to number 1, let's go to 10. And so Tom and I had hit shots like this off the tee box. So we went to where I was. He was riding on the cart with me. So we went to where my shot went. Then we went over to where his shot had gone. And I remembered Tom got off the cart and was walking around. His ball had gone into the trees, into bushes. And so we were looking around all over. This is the first hole we're on now. But something just said, over here, over here. I walked around some bushes, back into the bushes, and there it was. Right there on the ground. We'd have never looked there if something hadn't said, over here. And I attribute that to prayer the night before. We almost went directly to it the next morning.
Wow.
See, we had looked at every hole the day before. Didn't find it. But one prayer, there it is.
You thank God for it.
Yes.
You gave him thanks
Right there on the spot.
You bet.
Yeah. That's what the lesson that Paul is talking about right here. In all of our sufferings, we've learned to depend solely upon God. What is God like? I want to read you some words out of the... We've got about 15 minutes, so it'll take that to read this. This is a section in the Talmud on the doctrine of God. There's a lot here. I've got to find the section I'm looking for. Okay, here it is. We say God is a God of justice. You understand what that means? God is a God of justice. A God of justice would demand that every sin be paid for. Right? That's justice. Somebody in our society commits murder. We hunt them down. We arrest them. We arraign them. We bring them to trial. And we penalize them for that crime. That's justice, right? They have to pay for that crime. God is a God of justice. We might say God is a God of law. What is the prevalent, in your mind, what is the prevalent view of God in what we call the Old Testament? The Hebrew Scriptures. What is the prevalent view of God? He's a God of law. He's a God of justice who demands penalty for sins be paid for. He says in Exodus, when he's giving Moses the law, God said to Moses, I am a jealous God. I visit the sins of the father. Finish that for me.
7 times.
I visit the sins of the father to the third and fourth generations. That's justice. Every sin must be paid for to the second and third and fourth generations. That's scary. So my sins cause my great-great-grandchildren even to suffer. Wow. It's like God hits me so hard, it knocks my great-great-grandchildren's teeth out. That's justice. You understand that? That's the God of the Old Testament. Or is God a God of grace, of mercy, of compassion, and forgiveness? We say that's the God of the New Testament. But the God of mercy is also in the Old Testament. And the God of justice is also in the New Testament. He is a God of justice. At the same time, He is a God of mercy. Now, how can that be?
If you ask forgiveness, then does that take care of that?
Yes, but
Okay.
Well, sometimes.
that's the God of mercy,
Yeah.
though.
Okay.
But every sin has to be paid for.
It was paid for.
I've always believed the Bible says if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth thereof, there remaineth no more sacrifice for that sin.
God in the book of Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel, he said to Moses, I visit the sins of the father to the third and fourth generations. I'm a God of justice. But he said through the prophet Ezekiel, some 700 or 800 years later, same God, through Ezekiel said, I don't wish that any should die. I wish that all persons, regardless of their sin, would come to mercy, would come to my reward. And I don't visit, he says in Ezekiel, I don't visit the sins of the father to the third and the fourth generations. Every person is responsible for their own sin. And He is a God of forgiveness, according to that in Ezekiel. Listen to what the rabbis say. The first Hebrew patriarch addressed the deity as the judge of the whole earth. That's in Genesis. And the Talmud regards Him, the God, in the same light. As the creator of the world and of the human race, He holds His creatures to account for the manner of their living. Now that's a God of justice. He holds His creatures to account. His judgments are always just. With Him there is no unrighteousness, nor forgetfulness, nor respect of persons, nor taking of bribes. That's in one of the books of the rabbis. Rabbi Jochanan ben Zakkai, on his deathbed, told his disciples that he was about to be judged by one, capital O, by one whom I cannot appease with flattering words, nor bribe with money. That's a God of justice. Nor is there anything arbitrary about His decisions. A Roman matron said to a rabbi, your God draws near to Himself whomever He likes, without regard to justice. He set before her a basket of figs, from which she kept picking and eating the choicest. He said to her, you know how to make a wise selection. And would you assert that the Holy One, blessed be He? Any time in the Talmud or any of their writings, they refer to the Holy One, capital letters, Holy One. It is followed by, blessed be He. That's the reverence they have for God. Would you assert that the Holy One, blessed be He, does not make wise selections? He chooses and draws near unto Himself the person whose acts are good. That's from Numbers. In the rabbinic literature, an eternal conflict is represented as being waged between God's justice and God's mercy. There is scarcely a passage which refers to His capacity as judge, which does not also allude to His attribute of compassion. The divine appellation, there are two words in the Hebrew Scriptures for God. One is Elohim, and that is translated by the word God, G-O-D, in the Scriptures. The other word is Yahweh, the unpronounceable word, which is translated as Lord, usually all capital letters, Lord. So you have two words for God in the Old Testament, God, translated God, or translated Lord. The divine appellation, Elohim, translated God, was understood to denote His aspect of judgment. And Yahweh, translated Lord, his aspect of mercy. And the combination of the two names in the verse, these are the generations of the heaven and earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God made heaven and earth, is explained as follows. When they use the two together, Lord God, This is what they mean. It may be likened to a king who had empty vessels. The king said, if I put hot water into them, they will crack. If I put icy cold water into them, they will contract. So what did the king do? The king said, he mixed the hot water with the cold and poured the mixture into the vessels, and the vessels endured. Similarly, said the Holy One, blessed be He, if I create the world only with the attribute of mercy, sins will multiply beyond all bounds. If I create it only with the attribute of justice, how can the world stand? Behold, I will create it with both attributes, would that it might endure. You understand that illustration? Indeed, it was only because the quality of mercy prevailed at creation that the human race was allowed to come into being. When the Holy One, blessed be He, came to create the first man, He foresaw that both righteous and wicked would issue from him. He said, if I create him, wicked men will issue from him. If I do not create him, how can righteous men spring from him? What did He do? He removed the way of the wicked from before him, allied the attribute of mercy with Himself, and created man with both attributes. If compassion was the deciding cause of creation, its victory over stern justice is the reason of the world's continuance in the face of wickedness. If it's only created in compassion, mercy, grace, then the world will just get more wicked and more wicked. Read the story of Noah in chapter 6 of Genesis. That's exactly what had happened. The world had gotten so wicked over the 10 generations since Adam and Eve that He decided to destroy it. He was sorry He created it, the Scripture says. There were 10 generations from Adam to Noah to make known how long-suffering God is, seeing that all those generations continued to provoke Him before He brought upon them the waters of the flood. When Abraham addressed his plea to God, shall not the judge of all the earth do justly? Do you remember that story? God is on His way to Sodom and Gomorrah. He's seen the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah. He is on His way to Sodom and Gomorrah to destroy those cities because of their wickedness. He stopped off at Abraham's camp on the way to Sodom. And He finally told Abraham what he was going to do, where he was going, and what he intended to do. And Abram said to God, Abram dared to negotiate with God. Abram said, shall not the judge of all the earth do justice? And then he began to bargain for Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember that story? If there are 100 people who are righteous in Sodom and Gomorrah, would you save the city? And God said, yes. And Abram thought, well, maybe I can't even find 100 over there, because he couldn't. He said, what about if I can only find 90? You wouldn't destroy the city just because of 10 people, would you? And so God said, no, if you find 90, I'll save the city. And He finally negotiated it down to 10, and God couldn't even find 10. So He destroyed the city. Remember that story? The meaning of that story is this. If you desire the world to continue, there cannot be strict justice. If you insist on this is Abraham talking to God. If you insist on strict justice, the world cannot endure. Couldn't. The Hebrew expression for divine forbearance is not erik af, but erik apayim, the second word having a dual form. This was explained as denoting that God is not long-suffering with the righteous only, but equally with the wicked. The Bible relates that when God revealed His attributes to Moses, Moses made haste and bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. To the question, what overwhelmed Moses so much? The answer is given by the rabbis. The recognition of the divine forbearance or compassion. The apparent victory of evil over good in the world was understood as the manifestation of his mercy. Moses described God as the great, mighty, and terrible. Jeremiah referred to him only as the great and mighty God, because said he, where are his terrible acts, seeing that heathens dance in his temple? Daniel referred to God only as the great and terrible God, because said he, where are his mighty acts, seeing that heathens enslave his children? Then came the men of the great assembly, and restored all the attributes, for they said, on the contrary, this is the greatest manifestation of his might, that he subdues his anger and shows long suffering with the wicked. If you read the story of Noah, you see God is so angry with the wickedness of the earth. He says, I'm sorry I ever created them. I'm just going to end it all. Then there's this little bitty 3-letter word that says, but Noah, threw a wrench into the whole process. Noah was a righteous man. And so God had to save the earth. He could not destroy the righteous. He subdues his anger at wickedness and shows his long suffering. And it is likewise the manifestation of his terrible acts, without which how could a single nation be allowed to continue in existence? If God did not subdue his own anger, we could not exist, because that's how he feels about wickedness. But the greatest attribute of God's mercy is that he is willing to subdue his own anger and look with favor upon a wicked world. That's the wisdom of the rabbis. I want to read some more of this to you, but we have run out of time. The attribute of grace, it was taught, exceeds that of punishment by 500-fold. This conclusion was deduced from the fact that in connection with punishment, God described himself as visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the what? Third and fourth generation. That's in Exodus 20. But in connection with grace, this is in the Old Testament, and we Christians like to say, well, there's no grace in the Old Testament. Yes, there is. But in connection with grace, it is said, and showing mercy unto the 1,000th generation. That's also in Exodus. He shows mercy to the 1,000th generation. Do you understand the difference here? His anger he shows to 3 and 4 generations. His mercy to 1,000 generations. The last phrase in the Hebrew, alafim, which is literally thousands with an S, must indicate at least 2,000 because it has an S on it. It's got to be at least 2,000. Retribution, therefore, extends at most to 4 generations, whereas mercy extends to at least 2,000 generations. See the attributes of God in the Old Testament? Isn't that a beautiful illustration of his mercy? That's the Talmud. It's fun to read. It just gives you all these old stories about how the ancient Hebrews, the rabbis, explained the scriptures and explained God's attributes. I think I just get a thrill out of reading. I found this in a used bookstore. I couldn't resist it. And I just every time I open it, I get a thrill in reading that ancient wisdom about who God is and how God acts toward us.
Well, tell them how they sat at a table was like and
argued
back and forth.
Yeah. He said the rabbis discuss. They don't argue. They discuss the scriptures. They sit at tables facing each other, and the tables are slanted like a desk often is, like so. And they sit face to face, and for hours they will sit there and discuss one verse of scripture and the meaning of that verse. That's how much they love and respect the law. Now remember the story, the only story we have in the Gospels of Jesus' boyhood. What is that story
He's
about?
in the temple teaching.
In the temple.
He's in the temple at the age of 12, listening to rabbis sitting there face to face discussing the law and asking them questions that even the wisdom of the rabbis that day could not answer at the age of 12. Jesus at the age of 12, he probably has not even had his bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Bar mitzvah usually is when you're 13 in Jewish tradition.
Did he have bar mitzvah to
They had, I don't know that they called them bar mitzvahs back then, but they have for centuries. It's when a boy becomes a man and is allowed to study the law. Now remember, in ancient tradition, girls did not have a bar mitzvah.
Oh, I know it. They
Because
really got
girls-
messed up.
Girls became women, but girls
But they
were not
have
allowed.
wisdom.
But girls were not allowed to study the law. But today, girls have not a bar mitzvah, but
bat
girls have a bat mitzvah. B-A-T, bat mitzvah, in which that's their rite of passage from girls into
Same age
womanhood.
as boys.
And it's the same age, 13. So you begin to understand a little bit more about how much Jesus loved the law and knew it so well. So, okay, see you next Sunday.
Thank you.
God bless you this week.
Have a good week.
We will. We will.
I will. What time is it?
I think it's at 6 o'clock.
We're not there. They move around a lot.
None of us know what
I
time.
think it's at 6 o'clock. Late afternoon. I might should check. Well, we're going to be down there on Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday. So, then we have to come back because I have to be here on Sunday to take the youth to Oklahoma City for their work day.
And we're not gonna have Sunday school.
No, we'll have Sunday school. I'll be back that morning.
Okay.
I don't skip Sunday school.
Thank you. We appreciate
Well,
it.
we, when you bring that book again, there, some of those things you said at the very last, I was trying to copy it and I couldn't hold it in my head, and I just love some of
Try to
that.
find a couple of copies.
What is the name of that?
Every man's
Every
time.
Man's Table. All right.
Major teaching of the rabbinic sages.
That also.
But you put your, I noticed you put
I
your.
got this at Bookaholic.
Look at
Oh.
Call Bookaholic. You may have some copies of it. Every Man's Talmud. It's written by Abraham Cohen.
Cohen, I remember the Cohens you talked about?
Yeah.
He didn't say Cohen, but he said, well, what is that? You put your place marker in there. Right
That's
there.
in the
What page is that, 19?
16, Justice and Mercy.
Okay, okay.
He has all of this is a long explanation of the Talmud.
I praise
And
the
it gets
Lord
confusing.
that the Lord, like, He is in control, and all this awful stuff that's going on just drives me wild. And I try to find peace with the fact that He's in control. But this is very helpful here.
Sometimes, Margie, I think that we may be in the age of the prophets again.
Do ya?
Go back and read some of the minor prophets, 600 and 800, the 8th century and the 6th century prophets, the 700s and the 500s, I'm sorry, BC. Go back and some of those prophets are only one page long, 2 or 3 pages, they're not long. But it'll give you a view, read Amos, it'll give you a view of what was going on in Israel that the prophets spoke out against. Basically what they're saying is what you're talking about. If you don't straighten up, you're doomed. If you don't stop this, you're doomed. If you don't come back to me in my ways and the law, you're doomed. They didn't heed it. Totally defeated. Sometimes I think we may be in another age of the prophets. And prophets should be saying to America, come back to God. If you don't, America is doomed, and I believe we are.
But the world, I mean, it's going on all over the world.
It is.
All over the world, and all these kids. And, oh, it's just, Anyway, this was a good lesson. See, I can't even remember that.
Talent.
By every man's.
Every man's talent.
I can't keep things in my head 2 seconds anymore.
That section is about 4 pages long, so I didn't get to read all of it.
Okay, well, maybe you will.